Hello, North America. Hello, Canada. Hello, United States. Hello from everywhere. Welcome to this webinar called Become a Microsoft Teams Rockstar. It's a tremendous pleasure to be in front of all of you to bring the latest innovations of Microsoft Teams with the Valo crew and with the Valo team. My name is Gokan, Ozcifci, and I'm talking to you directly from the Valo headquarters in Finland. I'm a Microsoft Regional Director and a former SharePoint MVP, or how we call it today, an Office App and Services MVP. Today, what we will learn, what we will see is only a 10-minute of slides about the latest innovations and the latest experiences that Microsoft has announced during Ignite 2019. And we will then go in a few minutes of what Microsoft Teams today is, the architecture, the storage, and why there is a need in Microsoft Teams. And then we will go for a 40-minute deep dive demonstration about the latest innovations, especially also what's not really well done with Microsoft Teams. Because you are the end user, you are the person who is going to use Teams on every single day. And it's your absolute right to know what's going well and what's not going so well with Microsoft Teams. And I'm going to show you the limitations and also the advantages of using Microsoft Teams. A little bit housekeeping before the webinar. You can ask any question in the chat. We have a host, Hedy, who is catching up the questions. Or you can use Twitter with the hashtag AskValo. We are also catching questions from there. And my Twitter handle is xgokan. So if you want to ask any question, if you want to tweet about this webinar, if you want to have any response to any question about Office 365, Microsoft 365, then that's the place to be. And definitely Valo Intranet is also our Twitter handle where we share the latest innovations about digital transformation, digital experiences within Microsoft 365. So the latest innovations announced at Microsoft Ignite 2019 for those who couldn't attend the biggest show in the world. The first thing that they announced is the private channels. This was maybe the longest awaited or the most demanded feature ever at Microsoft, and it has been released. But what you need to know about private channels is that SharePoint is still the key factor. Whenever you create a private channel into Teams, it will create a non-Office 365 group connected team site. So it's going to be a standalone SharePoint team site, which is a simple container for your library. So every document that you add into your private channel will be actually hosted, contained by the standalone team site. A good advice I'm giving to you is to not touch that SharePoint site, because you may change anything you want into that SharePoint site. Teams will erase what you have done, because every 4 hours or something like that, Teams is going to check the SharePoint site, and if he sees or checks and sees some changes into the SharePoint site, he will erase what you have done and apply his own schema, his own permissions. Each team can have a maximum number of 30 private channels, and each private channel can have a maximum of 250 members. The 30 private channel limit is in addition to the 200 standard channel limit per team. That's released, that should be available today into your tenancy, but that was the biggest announcement for Teams during Ignite. Another one that we are waiting, that I am waiting, and I think will change our way of working is the multi-window capability. That's something that comes from the Lync and the Skype world, being able to work in multi-window from one application. So we could basically pop up or pop out chat, meetings, calls, documents, and work in multi-window instead of only having like one window with Teams. Multi-window capabilities will start rolling out early this year, and hopefully we are not going to wait way too long, and we will have that experience as soon as possible in Microsoft Teams. Yet another one, pin channels. We already know that feature from SharePoint. We can pin documents into a SharePoint document library. That functionality, that feature set is also now available into Teams. You can now select any channel and hit on pin this channel, and then that selected channel would be pinned on top of Microsoft Teams. This is phenomenal if you have like 50 or 60 groups and you have to switch from one channel to another channel, from one team to another team, you could simply pin 5 or 6 most important channels and just focus on that 4 or 5 channels that you have in Microsoft Teams. Another big announcement, exciting announcement that I could see during Ignite is the integration between Outlook and Teams. So today, whenever we have an important email coming in, then we do a reply all, we forward an email, and honestly, that's not real collaboration. Today, with the new integration, you can simply select your email, select a channel to publish, bring the information, and that email with the attachments will go into the specific channel where you can actually see the email, see the attachments such as the Word document or the PowerPoint as an example here, and then have the full collaboration stack such as commands, GIFs, images, even apply Power App or Flow on that kind of documents. So you get the full stack, the full experiences of collaboration with Microsoft Teams. Another one, for those who have already been into my sessions, one of those common jokes I do is I'm asking to my audience how many tasking engines we have in Office 365. And the answer depends on what kind of licenses you have, but it's almost like 5, 6, or 7 task engines like To-Do, Wunderlist, SharePoint tasks, Outlook tasks, Planner project, etc., etc. Now with Microsoft Teams, we have a new unified view on all of your personal and assigned tasks within Teams. It will consolidate every single task you have across To-Do, Team channels, Planner, and Outlook. So you don't have to go on multiple tools, on multiple engines to see what kind of tasks you have. Now all those tasks will come into one single experience into Microsoft Teams. Power App creators can now publish any app into the app catalog or the Teams app catalog. This is something that will raise adoption with Microsoft Teams and Power Apps. Now you can download any of those apps that you actually create with Power App, and then you can bring that app into Microsoft Teams. And you can use that app across the whole organization. I'm just gonna check, people have issues with resolution, it mentions here. So what I'm gonna do is remove this. Is resolution now better? Eddie, can you check within the chat? And I'm gonna open. Much better, that's amazing, so cool. So as I mentioned, you can simply go here and download the app and then bring that experience into Microsoft Teams and use that one into Teams. Another one, and I think that's the latest one, the lastest one, you can pin any app that's released by Microsoft or your own app into the navigation bar on your left. This will also help people on accessing the data, their application very fast. Instead of going to search for links for application, you can simply pin that application as well into Teams. Those are actually the exciting features that I'm really waiting and aiming for 2020, and I'm pretty sure this will help us make actually collaboration way better as we have today. Before getting into the demonstration, I'd like to discuss about the fundamentals of Microsoft Teams. Microsoft Teams today, it's a hub for collaboration. That's how Microsoft is seeing it. And I'm going even further. It's not only a hub, it's one capability, one experience, and one hub. Meaning, if you are a huge user of SharePoint, no worries. Teams is using SharePoint as the files experience to host and contain the data. So if you know SharePoint, well, no worries, you can use it with Teams as well. You want to use extension capabilities with Teams, no worries. Power Apps, Microsoft Automate or Flow can do that. You want to use Planner, you want to use conversations, audio, video, tabs using SharePoint framework, Office 365 groups, no worries. All of those stuff are actually already integrated artifacts by Microsoft Teams. If I go further, you can see this is like the schema of how Microsoft Teams is working today. And therefore, I'm going to open my laser pen and I'm going to show it to you. So today, if a modern coworker creates a Microsoft Teams theme, the engine will automatically provision an Office 365 group. And the Office 365 group provisioning engine will automatically create a SharePoint site, a shared mailbox, Skype for Business, and OneNote, a shared OneNote for you. I got a question when I did the EMEA webinar a few hours ago. Why do we still see Skype for Business? Because Microsoft announced the deprecation of Skype for Business, and it's going to be removed in a couple of months. Today, if you want to use PowerShell and do some automation with Teams, unfortunately, you still need to use the PowerShell of Skype for Business. You need to install the PowerShell module of Skype for Business. And still in the backend, some of those services, some of those functionalities are being still backed up for Skype for Business. Even if we'd love to remove Skype for Business and say, okay, all of those experiences are moved to Teams today, it's still being used, backed up by Skype for Business. One thing to remember, if you create a team site today, if it's a group connected team site, it will automatically provision Office 365 group for you. But the creation of an Office 365 group will not create a team site. So it's wonderful for a bottom to the top, but if you go to up, it will just stop here. It will not automatically create a team for you. You still can attach a group to a team manually, but there is no automation today within Microsoft. So whenever you have all of these, well, you can extend your experience. You can use the Power Platform, Power Apps, Power BI, Dynamics 365, Automate, XYZ to extend those experiences that you have with Teams. And you can even go outside of the Microsoft ecosystem and use Dropbox, Google Drive, Jira, etc., to check stuff within your Teams experience. And finally, you can even build your own applications and consume from Exchange, from SharePoint, from Teams. One of those examples that I love to give is the Notification Hub. You could create your own application, use Notification Hub for pushing notifications on your application, and that data could come from any stack within Microsoft 365, like Teams, SharePoint, OneNote, Exchange, etc., etc. All of these are actually backed up by Office 365 and Azure. Before deep diving into the demo, it's also important to understand the storage. One of the questions I'm always getting from customers, for consumers, is, can I back up Microsoft Teams? Because they know from a SharePoint perspective, they could back up SharePoint. From a SQL perspective, they could back up SQL. From an Exchange perspective, they could back up Exchange. So the question is, can I back up Microsoft Teams? As you can see, the left side of the schema didn't really change, but on the middle side, you can see it changes a lot, because every single part, like the shared mailbox, the modern experience, the modern site, or the intelligent communication, all of those functionalities that we have actually uses a feature set of the service in Office 365. And the wonderful, or the best example that I can give you is this one. A SharePoint site is being used in the backend to store the team files. The personal OneDrive of the consumer is being used to store the chat files. As you can see, yes, we have the modern team experience with SharePoint, but it uses different stacks to host, to contain our documents. It also goes for the shared mailbox. You are using a shared mailbox for one-to-many chat, or you're using a shared mailbox for Teams chat. One is the consumer, one is an Exchange itself. As you can see, backupping Microsoft Teams is quite difficult, although it's possible with vendors. By default, there is no need, and definitely it's quite complicated because there is no such service as Microsoft Teams, because it's consuming little stuff, little things from different stacks in Office 365. Why is there a need for Microsoft Teams today? Because on premises it's still complicated. I've done like 10 years of SharePoint consultancy in my life, and I know how SharePoint on premises works. And if you want to achieve something like Microsoft Teams, a hub for collaboration, well, it's complicated. You need to think about certificates. You need to think about form-based authentication because maybe you want to have external users coming into your hub for collaboration. You need to think about VPN access because today with the mobile first, cloud first era, you need to have something that works mobile as well, and maybe you need a VPN connection. And definitely you will never, ever, ever get the offerings that Microsoft gives you, such as OneDrive. Today with OneDrive, you could potentially bring a file that is 100 gigabytes. You will never, ever, ever have the latest innovations such as AI, Delph, or even Project Cortex. All of those functionalities are cloud first. And even the transformations like Power Apps, Flow, Power BI, Planner, all of those new tools, they're all in Microsoft 365, in Office 365. I did still today not see any of those tools coming into an on-prem. There are actually, well, ways on using gateways and consuming data from on-premises and build your application in the cloud, but still not something like Power App service application that will come into SharePoint Server. And definitely when we talk about a hub for collaboration today, there is a need for a hub for digital transformation. Everybody wants to get rid of their legacy environment. Everybody wants to get rid of an on-premises environment. We all want to use, and when I say we, it's the end users, it's the power users, it's the business that wants to use the latest services, the latest innovations of Microsoft, and even not only Microsoft, because Microsoft is not alone. We also have Amazon, Google. They also have wonderful products. Like if I think about Slack, Slack is like the main competitor of Teams, or better said, Teams is the competitor of Slack. Slack is also doing a tremendous job on the market. So everybody wants to use the latest innovations today. They don't want to wait 3 years for getting the latest service packs and functionalities. They just want to go straight forward into the latest experiences in Office 365. Good things about Teams, the extremely fast provisioning of the new workloads. Today in an organization, if you just join a team, well, you have to wait like ages before you get your username, password, before you get your site. With Teams, very fast, in a few seconds, everything is provisioned for you in the backend. You can use the intelligent bot ecosystem for actually getting the most intelligent framework in the world, and I'm going to show you in a few seconds how it works. And the latest point that I want to really show is like the technical agility. You can add capacity and flexibility to scale it very quickly. Microsoft can do that. You can do that on Azure. It's way so simple. I still remember like 5 years ago, I asked my manager for one server and it was a discussion of 6 months. Today, it can go very fast on Azure, or in Office 365, you even don't have to think about that. Okay, final slide the final slide of the slides, let's call it that way, and then we go into the demo. This is something I'm giving to you and ask to everybody to give this to actually your customers. Every organization is different. The culture of every organization is different. I know an organization that hates Yammer. The other one loves Yammer. One is anti-Microsoft. The other one loves Microsoft. And if you want to actually bring Microsoft Teams in an organization, bring them this scenario and ask them to drag and drop every single scenario into the pyramids and ask them like, hey, mailbox, that's for me pretty evident. It should go on the me, that's my mailbox. But what about Yammer? What about SharePoint sites? What about team channels? What about Teams team? Because a team chat could be me, we, or us. It could be all three at the same time. A Teams team could be we, us, but I could also have a team only for me. It's maybe stupid because then there is no real collaboration, but technically it's possible. So you have to understand the organization before saying like Teams is the way to go. And whenever you drag and drop those experiences on the us, we, and me, then you will have a better understanding of what you could bring as innovation to the customer. And this is my preferred quote. The electric light didn't come from the continuous improvement of candles. You may, at your customer, add more service, add more features, add this, add that, a lot of stuff. But if you don't innovate and change well, then you will fail. So let's talk less and see more in action how Microsoft Teams is working. Sharing screen has stopped. Oops, sharing screen has stopped. So I'm gonna share my screen again. Just gonna check with Eddie. Can you see my screen, Eddie? Yes, cool. Okay, so now I'm going to Microsoft Teams. This is actually the interface of Microsoft Teams. And whenever you go to an organization, basically you will already have like pre-filled teams. Hopefully the IT admin will add you to a few teams. And as you can see, a few examples here, I have my customers, pictures, intranet, regional director, and a demo site, okay? But if the manager tells you like, hey, Gokan, you're missing a team, you just simply have to go on join or create a team, and then you can create a team, join a team with a code, or simply join public teams. If I hit on join a public team, you will see that that team would actually, after I've been joining, come on the left side. I've seen today, since actually the issues that we had yesterday, because I don't know if you guys are aware, but yesterday Microsoft Teams was down for a couple of hours because the certificate expired, and I'm seeing a lot of issues today as well in my demo environment. Like it shows me it has been joined, but I can't see the team on my left side. So yeah, we'll just skip that part of the demo and come here. So you can simply join by clicking on the join button, or you can create a new team, or you can join a team with a code. So if you have a code, you can join a team, but how do you get that code? Very simple. As an owner, you hit on manage a team with the 3 dots. And under the settings, you have a bunch of stuff that you can configure for your team. You can select a team picture, you can grant permissions, remove permissions for your members, you can check for the guest permissions, you can enable channel creation, you can allow guests to create and update channels, etc., etc. But here on the last part, you have like a team code. You can share this team code with anybody in your organization so they can join that specific team and begin collaboration. Unfortunately, today, you can't bring your own code. It's something that Microsoft is managing. You can reset that code and say like, okay, I want to have something else. You can remove any code, you can copy that code, and you can even bring full screen of that code. This is wonderful if you have like an example or you do a workshop about Teams, you just put it on full screen and everybody can see what you're doing with that specific team. We also have an analytics tab that you could actually see how many users you have in that specific team, how many apps are connected, what's the size of your SharePoint. Even if there is a mistake, SharePoint should be capital P. You can see the size of your SharePoint documents herein, the active users, the roles, how many connections you had within the last 7 days. You can even go up to the last 28 days, and I had 0 messages in my demo environment, so I have no data available, right? I can also see my channels. I can see channels, and I can also see the deleted channels herein in the channels tab. And the last part is the members one. I can see the owners, and I can see the guests into my demo site. Fantastic. If I have the code, I can just copy paste and join the code. But if I create a new one, then you have like 2 options. You can build a team from scratch or create something from. That's something really interesting, creating something from, is because it gives you 2 options. You can create a team from an Office 365 group, meaning that if you have already an Office 365 group that is not team connected, you could use a second option to bring the Office 365 and SharePoint experience into Teams, so you will have a full link. Or you could say, I'm going to use a team, and then I could choose any of those existing teams and use it as a template. So take the example that the demo site is the one that I want to use as a template, and I'm going to say, okay, please create me a new team and copy the apps, copy the members, copy the team settings, the tabs, but something that not everybody is reading is this message. Messages, files, and content won't be copied. You need to set up the tabs and connectors again. I've seen a lot of companies like building teams with a bunch of tabs, with websites, with SharePoint sites, with data, and then they announce it to the organization like, hey, this is the template, use it. And whenever the business is actually creating new teams with that as a template, when everything fails because it didn't copy any message, any file, or any tab, and they had to reconfigure everything. This is phenomenal if you want to have the structure, but not the content-wise. So I'm coming back, I'm going to discard this, and I'm going to create something new from scratch, and then you get 3 options: a private one, a public one, which I think everybody knows already what's about, because the private one, people need permission to join, and in a public, anybody can join a team. But then you have the org-wide. Org-wide is something new. It's actually the outer loop in the inner loop. What do I mean with that? Microsoft has been always telling us inner loop is Teams, outer loop is Yammer, right? So if you want to do projects, use Team. If you want to communicate with the outside, use Yammer. But today we also have an org-wide template, org-wide team into Microsoft Teams. And whenever you create an org-wide team, everybody within the organization will automatically be part of the org-wide team. It can go up to 5,000 objects from Azure AD, and the end user cannot actually go away, cannot leave that team. So he will actually be there until an administrator removes him from that org-wide team. This is phenomenal if you actually want to announce something big for the whole organization, and you want to say like, hey, we have a new CEO, we have a new CTO, and you do the announcement from the org-wide team. But from now on, we'll just use the public one, and I'm going to give this an email name, or just a name, which is called USA, or just called North America Valo Webinar. Very simple, very creative name. And now the Teams engine will provision Office 365 group for me. It will provision a SharePoint site, a shared mailbox, etc., etc. And now I'm going to add my brother, which works with me, into my team. You could add your coworkers, you could add anyone else into the organization, and you could choose if it's an owner or a member. And I'm going to leave it as a member into my team. Very quickly, you can add members from here. You can leave that team. If you have other admins, you can add it or even get a link. But what's really interesting is adding a channel, because by default, you get the general channel, which is, in my humble opinion, not to be used only by the admins for doing announcements. But if you add a channel, then basically, and I'm going to add a channel which is called HR, you can make it a private channel, which will have its own SharePoint site, or a standard one, which will use the group connected SharePoint site, and it will just create a folder named HR. So let's test that. I'm adding the HR channel into my team. And now if I come to the SharePoint experience, you will see that I will have the new experience with metadata, right? You heard right, with metadata into the files experience. So I can add new documents. I could even have a specific view into my Teams. Actually, we are getting the full SharePoint experience into Microsoft Teams. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new document, which is called Gokan's test. Okay? A very, very simple document. And now within Microsoft Teams, I'm getting into Word Online, and I'm going to just say like, this is a test document, and I'm closing that test document. Very simple. My file is now uploaded into SharePoint, and I can see that document from the HR. So what we will do now is I will add a new channel, and I'm going to call it HR again. So what Teams is going to say is, hey, buddy, be careful. You can't add a new one with this name because it's already taken, right? And which makes sense because I already have an HR one here. So what I'm going to do, and what I'm seeing people are doing, and a lot of MVPs and a lot of people are just promoting that to use emojis, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to call this one, the $sign with HR. Now, Teams, from a Teams perspective at least, there is no issue because I have a $sign and it's now completely different from the HR one, so it lets me to create the channel. So if I add that channel perfectly, it worked perfectly because now I have my channel. But if I go under the files experience, you will see a document. And I never did create a document into the HR dollar tab, right? I never did that. If I come here under the HR, under files, I have the same document. So what I will do is I'm going to change and rename and say, like, it's not Gokan tests, it's Gokan's production document, not anymore tests. I'm changing it here. If I go back to my HR $, oh my gosh, it has changed as well. What's happening actually in the backend is very simply, in SharePoint, if I go under the document, he didn't create a HR $, because he didn't understand, SharePoint didn't understand what the $sign was. So what he did very simply is say, oh, I already have an HR site, so I'm going to use that one. And that's the reason why we only have like one document and we can see it from 2 different channels. Always be careful. It is not because you have seen from an MVP or from a community person to use emojis into the channels. It is fancy, it is cool, it's phenomenal from an end user perspective, but for the admins, for the guys who are managing SharePoint and Teams, it's actually a headache. So what actually curious people would say, Gokan, why couldn't we create actually this one, right? Because if Teams has something like that, my SharePoint doesn't have that, so I should be able to create that. If I hit on create, then SharePoint will also fail and say like, Gokan, a file or folder with the name already exists, you can't do that. So actually in the backend, we have broken something. We don't know what yet, and I don't know what the consequences are, but something now is broken in the backend. It works perfectly within Teams, but SharePoint don't really like the emojis. So if I come back to my team and add a new channel, and then I say like HR, and I'm going to add another one, the heart, right? Now again, Teams will say, no worries, buddy, you can create that because it's different from the 2 others. He is creating the HR heart one. What do you think? Will I see the document? No, document is not available because he actually could translate to an ASCII code the hard one. So if I go back to my SharePoint and come under my documents, well, you will see that he just created a new one with a hard one. Always be careful with what you are doing with naming and emojis into Teams. Something that I really wanted to show is DLP today, but since the issues yesterday, DLP isn't working, so I'm gonna do a real life test here. And normally within Microsoft Teams, whenever you have a DLP rule applied, and I'm gonna show you the DLP rule, I have like 2 DLP rules, and I'm gonna just show you this one. It's a simple rule that actually blocks financial cards, financial institution cards, and very simple. If I edit this, I simply set to my DLP, please block everything in Exchange, on SharePoint, on OneDrive, and on Teams if you see something about credit card number. And the location is very fast. Teams, if I open my team, you can see that the, I can also add the demo one. There we go, the demo site. What I will do is maybe, I had a lot of issues today with DLP, so I will do a real test. I'm adding everything under Teams, and I'm saving that. And I'm hoping that if I can actually submit a credit card number into Teams, hopefully it will say like, Gokan, you can't do that. It failed like 10 times today because as you can see under my Teams, I did a bunch of tests today. And the funny part of that, just before the certificate issue yesterday, it worked. So whenever I added actually a credit card number, DLP blocked, and I had the red background, and it asked me what you want to do. You want to override and send, or you want to report this to the admin so he can check if it has sensitive data or not. So I'm going to just recheck here. Did it finish? Okay, so I'm going back to my and I'm going to choose something else. I'm coming here and I'm going to paste this one, and hopefully within a few seconds, Microsoft Teams should actually intercept the credit card number. And there you go, he blocked it, and he said like, oh, now you have actually a credit card number, which is not actually prohibited into Microsoft Teams, so we are blocking that for you. And as an admin, I can override and send this, or I can report this to my admin. So what I will do for now is I'm overriding and sending because I'm an administrator, and now that data is available into Microsoft Teams. Okay, next. Something really interesting is the conversations with Microsoft Teams. So I'm going back to the general as an example, and I'll start a new conversation just here. I can add a subject like, can somebody help me in Teams in HTML? Can somebody help me in HTML? That could be actually a question. And then I can write something here and say like, hey, please somebody help me. The thing is, you could start a new conversation, or you could start a new announcement and say like, okay, this is the new project we finished. And like, you could say like, project alpha finished, and I can type anymore. And you can even add a background color or even add an image. So if you upload an image, you could add that image here, or you can even bring some color and you could say, okay, I want to have a red one in the backend and post that as an announcement. You can select if everybody can reply or only you and the moderators can reply. And this is something that I really don't like, because it feels like the reply all button in Exchange, but you could definitely also select everywhere where you want to put this as information. So I'm going to my demo site and I will just select every single channel, and then I will say, instead of doing an announcement, doing a new conversation, can anybody help me with HTML, publishing this, he wants something, May Day 9/11. I'm publishing this, and there you go. And now every single channel into, oh, didn't I? Yes, it did. As you can see now, every single channel like Q&A, help desk, flight expenses will now get also a copy of that. And there you go, here it is. But the bad thing with that is if I have a command here, there's a command, that command will not be available under that channel. So yes, using the option of posting to multiple channels is amazing, but there is no synchronization of commands under the same channel. So somebody wants help, you could use any of those applications that you could add from here. I can add something from Wikipedia and say like, hey buddy, search for HTML, that's a connector to Wikipedia, and I could just bring an article from Wikipedia as an answer herein. Or I can simply go to YouTube and say HTML, and then YouTube will, oh, there we go again. I have a few issues. As I mentioned, since the issue of yesterday, some things are not working very well. But yeah, you could definitely go on YouTube and ask for an image as well. Something really new announced yesterday is you can now bring polls into Microsoft Teams. And that one doesn't work as well. So maybe I should go on this one and try from here. So if I go to the HR, and this is really annoying me, so I'm going to bring this up. So if I go here in and do not Trello, but Forms, hopefully now it will work. There we go. And now I can add questions within Microsoft Teams powered by Microsoft Forms directly. So the question could be, is Gokan sexy? And now automatically with the AI behind the scene, he already has like suggested options. Yes, no, maybe. If I hit on apply all, I have my questions herein. If I hit on next, then you will see the preview of the question. If I hit on send, that specific channel, HR, will now have a V card with the question and the responses that I have. And as it mentions, results are visible to everyone, names are recorded. So if I say Gokan is sexy, I submit my vote, then the result pane will automatically be reflected and changed, so you can see the responses directly from that specific channel. If I come back to the new conversation, remember we had a discussion about HTML, and if somebody could help anybody with HTML, what I will do here is take the example, we are a multinational, and Valo is multinational, right? We have people in Melbourne, we have people in Canada, we have people in Finland, and take the example that Vlad, which is from Canada, doesn't speak English, right? He only speaks Canadian French, which is like ugly French. So what we will do is Vlad is replying to me in French. Hello, Gokan, je ne saurais pas te répondre, malheureusement. So this is like French, but yeah, French. And Vlad did reply that to me, and within the Teams experience, I can use the in translation mode to translate that text into English. And my French text now has been actually translated to, hello, Gokan, I can't answer you with any time. If I re-click on that and see the original one, I can see the original text. So Microsoft Teams has an inbuilt capability of translating any language to English. So you'll break silos, you'll break barriers between teams. Anybody can actually write a text even in Turkish, in Dutch, and with Teams you can reply. You can see the translation and reply on that. So what I'm now going to do is say this: dog eat hamburger and go school. Like that sentence doesn't make any sense, right? That's even not proper English. But yeah, I know of a bunch of people talking like this because English or American is not their native language and they have very difficulties. So what you could do is use Immersive Reader, which is like an option just under Translate. And whenever you hit on Immersive Reader, you will get a whiteboardish screen where actually it will show you the text that you already have here. And I'm going to just move this a little bit up. There you go. The text of here. And if I hit on one of those words, the picture library within Microsoft Teams will show me what actually the dogs means with the picture. If I hit on hamburger, then it will show me a hamburger. If I click on school, then it will show me what the school means. If my English is not that good, I can definitely go with Immersive Reader, understand what that sentence means. Even though the dog ate hamburger and go to school doesn't mean anything, it was just to showcase the capability behind that to show you with the picture dictionary. If I click on the reading preferences, I can even translate the whole document. I could say, okay, I want to translate this to Bosnian. I can do this by word, or I can simply say by the whole document. And then my text will be translated into Bosnian. The good thing with that is if I go back to English, and I'm not choosing English United States, I have the play option, and the play option will read the whole text for me, meaning that if you're in a bus, in a car, or even driving your car, that you could actually listen to the whole conversation because you have the play option. With my son, we actually look also to the grammar option because I love to show him the nouns, the verbs, the adjectives, and the adverbs into a text so he can learn also from that. And the latest but the not least part is that you can actually play with the text size, with the font, and even apply some themes, but that's actually the least interesting part because the most interesting part is the picture dictionary, the translation, and the lecture with Microsoft Teams. Okay, so next one. Or maybe before going into the calendar, I'm going to show you what the intelligent bot framework can do. I also built a bot, and for those who have been using SharePoint and Exchange and Skype for ages, we know we have a lot of Q&As. SharePoint people use Wiki pages, Exchange people used HTML files to bring information to end users. But what you can do today is you can use the bot framework. And I have built actually a bot And I'm going to maybe use this one because it's not installed on the fresh one. I'm going to the general, and I will just hit add. I'm getting a bot, and my bot is called the Team App Neoxybot. And I'm going to ask him a question, and the bot will get the data, my question, and respond to that question. And do you know what the most important question? It's this one. How sexy is Gokan? That's the most important question. So the bot will intercept the question, will check in his database, if he can find the solution, and there we go. The response is, oh dear, he's very sexy. Well, thank you, my dear bot. I appreciate your compliment. But how does it work in the backend? It's something that really, really takes only a few minutes. I've never ever coded in my life, and in a few seconds you can do that. So basically, you go on Q&A Maker, which is the cognitive services, qnamaker.ai, you create a new knowledge base, and then simply you add a few questions. Like here, the first question I had is how sexy is Gokan? I could add an alternative phrasing and then give an answer. You could do like, what about Valo? An alternate phrasing, the response. Where can I find my colleagues? Give an answer. And you could just come here and add multiple questions. And one of those questions could be, what's the capital of the USA? That could be a question, right? And the answer would be DC. Very simple. What I can do now is saving and training my bot to understand the question and the response. I hit on test, and I will just paste the question herein. The bot directly understood the question and give me the response of DC. So I'm very happy. What I will do is I'm going to publish this one into my bot. So I have my knowledge base. I'm pushing this into the knowledge base, and there we go. He says to me, like, it has a success. What do you want to do? I want to create a bot. I have my Postman. I can edit service. What I will do is I will hit on view all my bots in Azure. So I will authenticate myself to my Azure environment. And now, very simply, it will give me a list of every single bot I have. I only have one. And now it will even give me a timeline of what should I do with that bot. I planned, I did build, and we're on the build phase. You can test, you can publish it directly to Azure, or you can connect it to channels. And who says channels? Says Teams. If you hit on channels, as you can see, my bot already has been connected to Teams. But what's really interesting is that you can even connect that bot outside of Microsoft Teams. You could use Slack, Facebook, GroupMe, Skype, Telegram, and all of those experiences. This one is the one that I'm going to test hopefully before the end of the year, is the Cortana integration. Could you imagine a world, a digital workplace, where you have a talk with Cortana and say like, hey Cortana, what's the capital of the US? And Cortana will give that information, the question, to your bot. The bot will get the response and post that response in Microsoft Teams. That's how I see the future of collaboration coming within a few months, maybe less than years. That's how it will work. Actually talking to Cortana, to Siri, to get that information in Teams. And whenever you have connected to your Microsoft Teams, let's go here and then ask the question. I know normally it takes like a few minutes to get the question and the response from the bot. Hopefully now we will get the response within a few seconds, but I really doubt that we will get it directly. So we'll wait just 3 seconds more if we don't get the response, because I know it needs a few seconds to synchronize and to get the response from the bots. From a licensing perspective, it is into your Azure subscription. It's something that I've been using, and I don't remember that I've paid anything to use actually the cognitive service into my environment of Teams. Okay, so what do we have next? Let me cheat and check what, okay, yeah, the calendar app. So you have the new calendar experience in the Microsoft Teams, and you can begin actually collaborate and have meetings with people. What you can do is you just select a time frame, and you will have an Outlook-ish experience where you can do a new meeting, the classic meeting that we know, or a new live event. A new live event, it's like a broadcast. Anybody who has the link can just check in and see your broadcast. And this is something that we use for big announcements, like you have a new office opened in Washington, D.C., you make a broadcast and say like, hey, people, we have a new office in D.C. This one is more formal. You create a new team and we give it a name. Before giving a name, I'm always saying to people like always select a channel before doing anything. So if you have like a channel, we'll go to general one. Everybody who is part of that team and that channel can actually see the commands, see the video, see document that has been shared about that meeting. So we'll create, general, there we go. And we're gonna create meeting test for a webinar. There we go. Very simple. I'm scheduling a meeting. And now it will quit the calendar experience, come into the meeting experience. He has built something for me. I'm opening that meeting and I'm joining the meeting. And now you will see my face. Hello there. And I can blur the background, right? This is not something new. Microsoft is even working for faking the background, which means that you could, behind me, even see fake backgrounds, like the Eiffel Tower. You could see a Safari. You could even see an office. And you would definitely not know where I am. So I'm going to just disable the camera and then just join now. Now, basically, I'm in the meeting, and if I have my colleagues coming in and we can have a talk, we can chat with each other, we can collaborate. But what's really powerful is the whiteboard collaboration. What we have done since Jesus Christ, since the beginning, is the presenter is showing something, and we can just follow. There was not a real collaboration between the presenter and the attendees. With Whiteboard, it's completely different. Everybody which is in the team can now write, can now design, can now actually take place into that Whiteboard meeting. So it just takes a longer of time. I know that because of the Wi-Fi. So I'm gonna just wait a few seconds. There we go. And I can just take and design a database which has a connection to the cloud, right? And that has a connection to my Azure, very simple. And that has a connection to a firewall, and that could be a meeting, right? And that's our meeting. I'm very bad in drawing, but that could be a meeting. So whenever we quit the meeting because we have some emergency and we come back to the meeting and I'm joining that meeting again, what you will see, if I go back to my whiteboard, he will not create a new whiteboard for me, but he will simply open the whiteboard that we have been doing because it's associated to my meeting. So what we will see is I will see my firewall, my connection to the cloud, and my SQL server as a whiteboard meeting just here. We'll wait a few seconds. And then it should be okay. Come on. What I can do, by the way, is I can just start the recording to show you the new experience of GA as well. And 1, 2, 3 seconds, and I'm stopping the recording, stop recording, and I'm gonna explain you that in a few bits. Okay, we're just gonna reload that. Wi-Fi is doing horrible. Hopefully now, so I'll wait just a few seconds more. If not, no, okay, it's just taking way too much time. So basically what I wanted to show is that you could actually rework on the same whiteboard meeting. So I'm gonna stop the presentation and I'm gonna open the whiteboard application. And within the whiteboard application, actually every single thing that you have done will come here. And as you can see, the whiteboard meeting is now being created and I can just join that. And if I hit on that, and hopefully now I can access my whiteboard meeting. Otherwise, I will just open another one. There we go. And you can see the meeting that we have had into Teams. So I can access the same content from Teams as from Microsoft Whiteboard. Which is fantastic. with Whiteboard is that you can bring in old drawings coming from outside of Microsoft Whiteboard. So you could say, hey, Gokan, that's not a real drawing because that's an image, but the real magic begins when you hit on that ink wrap. Now AI behind Microsoft Teams will transform the image into a real drawing, and you can continue the drawing as if it was you that has done that specific drawing. Now what I can do is continue the drawing like the image was a real drawing. This is fantastic for collaboration and co-authoring into Microsoft meetings. So I'm gonna quit this, I'm coming back, and this one is what I wanted to really show you is whenever you record a meeting with Microsoft Teams, it will send the recording to Stream to encode that in a specific format and then bring it back into Teams. And people who couldn't actually join the meeting can see the recording from that specific channel. And that's one of the major reasons why I'm always saying, like, hey, always use a channel, because then people can just come into that specific channel and see what's going on. We only have like 4 minutes left, and I have like one demo left to show you. As you know, I have mentioned earlier in the beginning, you can actually add any Power App into Microsoft Teams. And one of them is this one. I created this. It's a simple application with Power Apps, which is based on a SharePoint list. And you can see the cars into a SharePoint list, and I can just add a new car. I can filter search. I can even go and look for details into a car. How do you do that? It's very simple. You just come into Power Apps, and you have the car rental, my application. You just have to hit on Add to Teams. And whenever you add to Teams, you can download that file on a zip, and then come back to the App Studio, which is a tool from Microsoft, and you add on the manifest editor, you have the option of importing an existing app. And then you have just to fill in a few fields such as licensing number, the owner, the company, etc. And then you can see your app directly from here. And you can pin by doing a right click on the app and say, I want to pin that app in my menu. Last example, and then I promise I will leave and we'll check for questions. I'm creating a new app, and I'm going to call it NA app for webinar. What's really fantastic with the new Microsoft 365 is everything is connected with everything. Like Teams can be connected to Flow, can be connected to Power Apps for bringing a new experience into Microsoft 365. And what I will show you here is I'm going to build a solution that will consume from Flow and bring the result into Microsoft Teams. In a few seconds, how does it work? And again, I'm very bad in design. I'm going to add a button, a very ugly big button just here, and then I will add a text input just here. And this is actually basically feedback that I want to send from an application to Microsoft Teams. So what I will do is select the button and say that button has an action, and that action will come from Flow, from Automate. So I'm going to create a new flow, and I'm going to say, okay, whenever somebody hits on that button, you just have to do something. And therefore, I'm always using this one, click a button in Power Apps to send an email. But now, instead of sending an email, I will just use Teams to bring that information, that feedback into Teams. So very fast, because not that much time left. I'm going to delete that action. I'm adding a new step, and I am saying like Teams, and then it will show me every single action that I can have in the Teams. And the one that I'm using for posting a message is this one. And I'm going to say, and now he will just take the token I have and check every single theme that I have. I'm going to the demo site, and under the general tab, I'm going to post a message. This could be a static text, but instead of putting a static text, I want to have something that comes from Power App, okay? I'm giving this the NA app name, and I'm saving this. It shouldn't take that much time to save the automate the flow. There we go, it has been saved. So if I go back to my app, oops, I did stop sharing, there we go. So I'm gonna just remove this here. And if I go back to here you will see I have my flow, which is called NA app. I'm adding that flow for my button. Now he's adding that flow, but the flow will fail because he will say, oh, I'm waiting for a dynamic content. And now, instead of bringing some text that is static, I will give the text input value. So I will say that the dynamic text is text input 1.text. Okay, there we go. And now the issue has disappeared. I'm hitting on play. I'm just saying this webinar was amazing. And I'm hitting on button. And now the Power App will call a flow. Flow will get the data from Power App and push that under Teams. If I come back to my Teams, under the general, I have this webinar was amazing. And I really hope that this webinar was amazing, that you at least learned one thing that you could take home, that you could take in the organization and say like, okay, my day was saved. I was for 1 hour here and it has been saved. As you can see, the video is ready here as well. The recording has finished, the encoding has finished, and anybody can just hit on that video and check the video. And before you guys leave, I have a gift for you. Everybody who was part of the webinar today can download, and Eddie, please, could you also paste the link into the chat box, can download our free ebook about Microsoft Teams and SharePoint. That's a book that I've been writing for at least 1 month. It's about everything that I've been talking today. SharePoint, how the document library works, how the collaboration works with Microsoft Teams, etc., etc. Grab a copy, use it, share it as much as you can, and thank you so much for joining this webinar. Thank you so much for sitting here 1 hour with me with my strange English and learning about Microsoft Teams. So now I'm gonna check for questions. So what I will do is I will just share this and then open the questions. There we go. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Oh my gosh, we have like 25 questions. I cannot respond everything about the questions. I will just pick up a few ones. And if you still need an answer to a question, please reach us out at Valo Intranet or with @xgokan. There we go. Question number 1. What do I have here? Are Teams channels and Teams private channels separate? ISO, how do I regulate the creation of a private channels? So yes, to respond to your question, Tom Schwartz, Teams channels and private channels, they basically do the same. It's just a placeholder for your document where you can add some apps and collaborate on it. The main difference is that the team channel is part of the Office 365 group. Unfortunately, a private channel is not part of Office 365 group. It's something that is only used into a specific SharePoint site, which has nothing to do with the Office 365 group. Why is it so? Because Microsoft said if it was part of the Office 365 group, the owner could see the content of the private channel, and that's what they want to avoid. Because maybe the owner doesn't have to see the content of the private channel. A perfect scenario is IT has created the channel, IT is the owner, but the CEO has a private channel about budget. Well, the CEO don't want that the IT can see the budgets, right? So that's why the reason it's designed like this. So what's the difference between we and us? Silbert asked the question. So that's the pyramid question. The me is something that I'm using. The we is a team, like the IT team, the HR team, the marketing team, and us is the whole organization. Like us, like the whole Valo team. We, it's only marketing. We could be HR. We could be portfolio, and me is like only me. Do we still have the limit of 5,000 people per org-wide team? TFY 0508. That's what I was. That's what I actually knew for ages. Maybe they have increased the limit, but the 5,000 people. It's even not 5,000 people. It's 5,000 objects because It also takes like meeting rooms and laptops, etc., as well into the org-wide team. So a recommendation of Microsoft is also do a cleanup whenever you have actually created your org-wide team. So yes, I recall 5,000 as the limit as per today. Okay, there we go. Doesn't the org-wide team muddy the water and compete with Yammer? Why would you use one over the other? So Brody, that's a fantastic question. Thank you so much. That's something I've been arguing with Microsoft for ages and saying like, okay, if we have org-wide team, why do we still need Yammer? And vice versa, right? Because one of the major advantage of Yammer were two things. The first thing was actually the broadcast, which now also is available into Teams. And the second thing was external sharing, right? But today, the new Yammer is also losing his power of external sharing. So your question is definitely correct. And it's definitely something that I really agree with. And for me, org-wide team should be enough. But the way of Microsoft, how they see it today into the intelligent intranet way, is that Yammer still has his way of doing. And let me give you a concrete example. I have a customer, the biggest Belgian telecom community company in Belgium, has like community groups of more than 10,000 people. So then Yammer definitely makes sense. But then the question is, how many customers do we have like that? That's not really much. So yes, definitely, I agree with you. So Michael, how will org-wide teams work for organizations with 10,000 employees? So the 5,000 limit is only today. I'm pretty sure that limit will be increased. Like Microsoft increased the object size of SharePoint size to 2 million. So it will come, they have metrics, they check if they reach that metric and they then act accordingly. So if they see that every single day they get peaks on org-wide teams, and then they will definitely increase the size. If nobody is claiming more than 5,000, then the limit will stay. That's how Microsoft is working. But that's only a soft limit. This can be changed anytime. So I did respond to that. What do we have next? Can you make existing channels private? Can you again? Well, no, unfortunately not. That's something that maybe I missed to say in my presentation. There is no way today, unfortunately, to bring a private channel into a standard channel or a standard channel into a private channel. That's also what I'm saying to my customers is if you want to use private channels, always be careful, because every document you add there, every app you add there, everything that you add there actually will remain only there. And if you want to bring this after the shift of the NDA into a standard channel, then it's a real migration, unfortunately. There is no way out of the box of doing that. Okay, Ralph, that's a long question. So the Files tab in Teams, I have two tenants and they look different slightly now, but until last week, very different. What is the setting to make sure it's in the newer version that looks more like a SharePoint list? Well, Ralph, then you should check with your technical account manager at Microsoft and ask them that they put you in the same ring, because Microsoft has multiple rings, R0, R1, R2, R3, and R4, and R5. You need to ask them to check if they can put you in the same ring, because it is possible that one tenant is in R4, another one is in R5, or maybe you have like a demo environment, which is like in R2 or in R3. It all depends. Check with your TAM. There is no real actually function today that will help you on having everything on the same level. Okay, Kevin, well, thank you. TFY 05, appreciate Go Consumer, makes it fun. Well, thank you, TFY. Can the Microsoft team be part of a Microsoft team? Unfortunately, Yammer, no, Gmer, can Microsoft team be part of Microsoft team? Unfortunately, today, there is no way of nesting teams with Microsoft team. It's all going to be standalones. So I still have like 18 questions open. I'm really sorry I can't respond to all of them. So if you want to have a response to your question, please shoot a Twitter, please shoot a question to Valo, and we will be glad to answer every question. Again, thank you so much. Merci beaucoup. Hartelijk bedankt. Teşekkür ederim. Shalom akhlaq. Assalamu alaikum to everybody. Have a great evening.